Hey guys, I just wanted to make a little quick update on this Visual Studio extension that I've been playing around with working on. I published it a while ago, so it's out there if you want to try it out. And I'll show you how to do that. I'll install it real quick and run through something. I guess one word of warning: it is a early. I mean, I think it's going to work. I think it works fine, but don't do anything like open your only copy of some game you wrote in 1984 in it and hose it. Okay, I know you won't, but anyway, so we'll run through installing this thing real quick. So here I've got a copy of Visual Studio Code with just a couple of extensions installed, and we're going to search for CoCo tools in the extensions here. And there it is. A grand total of 0 downloads. So we're going to go ahead and install. That should be it. I need to do a lot more documentation here. I mean, I need to spell out what all this stuff does, but I'll just give you the real quick view here. If you go to your preferences under File Preferences, Settings, Extensions, there'll be a CoCo Tools list here, and all your options will be in here. If you're here, you probably know what most of these mean, but I probably need to make something showing how to install all these. This is on Linux this time, and so these default settings probably will work for it if you just have CMOC, LW Tools, and an emulator and Toolshed installed. I'll just run through them real quick. Auto number still doesn't work, so ignore that. If you're running it in Windows, like with VCC, it will have to remap the path so that CMOC can get to your source code and disk files on the Windows folder. So I have to remap it to look from that to that. So you have anyway, you'll have to check that if you're using Windows and have Cygwin, is that how you say it? Cygwin, I guess, installed. But we're on Linux, so we don't have to do that. Your CMOC your executable paths. Now, if you have it installed like you normally would on here, and you can get to it from your terminal, and you can see that it sees it, then you just have to put CMOC there. That's all it is. It's just going to use that. If you're doing if you have it installed some way that you can't do that, you'll have to put a explicit path to it, whatever. But your CMOC flags are the way it's going to call it. You shouldn't have to change that. These are variables that it replaces the file names with. Your disk image path. As long as the path here exists, it'll create it for you. You don't even have to create one, I think. Your emulator flags, we're using MAME, and same thing. You can get to it. I'm not going to run it, but you can get to it from the terminal. So we just need the word MAME, and these are our flags. You can add more. You can add no throttle, or at some point I want to make it auto load the files. I have an option for that, but it's not in there yet. LW tools, your LWASM path, and your LW tools flags that it will use to assemble any of your assembly files. This checkbox, recreate your disk file on each build. I leave that checked. It seems like if you're really testing something out and you really hammer that disk file and just keep replacing over and over and over, eventually it corrupts it. So I just rebuild it every time. renumber increments for your basic line numbers. Change it to 5 just for the heck of it. And your tool shed options, tool shed copy, your file options is just a variable. It's going to replace this with either this or this, depending on whether it's a basic or a binary file. And your file path, disk path, file name, shouldn't have to change that. Disk any, and toolshed. If you can get to DCB from the terminal, you don't have to put anything there. And that's all the options for now. So now we'll play around with something. Okay, so just for a little quick demo, Ken Rygaard here, I hope I said your name right, has a cool little new game on here, the Nightmare Highway, and I noticed that he has the source on here, so it'll be a good example because it has kind of a mix of basic and assembly. So we're going to download the source for it and play around with it here. So we'll download it, save it there. Yeah, now it downloads, so we'll unzip it. Alright, so we've got some assembly, some basic. It's got a disk image in here. We'll go back to Visual Studio Tools. We'll just open the folder. Okay, and so now we can click through and see all his. So we've got our basic files. So just to show you, we'll do a couple of the things that it does here, like our renumber, our basic renumber. You can see all the go to, go subs, thens, else. And so I think we left it set to 5. So if we do a renumber, it should renumber it by 5s. Yeah. And renumbers our thens, and we have another one. Oh, I didn't mean to open the disk. I did it again. Yeah, here's another one. We'll renumber it. Our assembly. So if you want to send send one to the emulator, so here's our assembly file. And you just say CoCo emulator. That should assemble it in LW Tools and send the bin to MAME. So that's it. Our basic files, we'll save those. And now if we go up here, we can do the all files in current directory. That's going to send all the files in whatever is open, whatever file is open, all the files in the same directory. It sends all the basic files, builds all the assemblies, or assembles all the assembly files, and compiles C files. We'll just pick that. So now we should just see if the renumber messed anything up. Doesn't seem to. Alright, I won't play that all night. One thing about renumbering files, it doesn't care what the number is. So, you can just throw in something where you want it and then just renumber and you're ready to go. things around. We won't save that. And make a new file. We'll do a quick C. Oops. Save this. So that should save it, and we'll just do our emulator. Oh, and it doesn't. If you get an error, it should send the error, the output from CMOC back here. Preprocessor. Oh. Yeah, so emulator. There we go. And so anything will make it get another error here. Yeah, so it should give you a good, yeah, the output from CMOC. So we see on line, yeah, print FFFF on line 6. No, oh yeah, we'll fix that. And that's pretty much it. It's just something that maybe if it proves useful, it might help with the workflow a little bit. So if you'd like, give it a try. And let me know what you think. Let me know if you need help getting it running or whatever. And I'll make some more instructions for getting it going, and maybe do one on Windows or with VCC or whatever. But that's pretty much it.